Hello, hello. Let us just see. I think we are live, having a little bit of technical difficulties today. Um, but I think we're here. I think we're here and I think we're good. So we are going to go ahead and get started. Thank you guys for bearing with me. Okay. Awesome. So we have a lot of really great content to cover today, and I'm really excited to dive right in. For those of you who are new, my name is Cindy Montgomery. I'm a college and law school consultant. I work with all kinds of students, but as a first generation graduate from Princeton and Harvard Law School, I specialize in working with first generation and minority students and helping them break into higher education. So, like I said, we're going to go ahead and dive right in. If you have any questions, go ahead and put them in the comments. I'll say hello to YouTube, hello to Instagram, hello to my Facebook group, Barrier Breakers Law School Edition, and also just my Facebook page. All of those that are following at S. Montgomery Admissions Consulting, I'm so happy to have you here, and I'm so happy to answer your questions. So today, I told you we would be talking about how to know if law school is for you, and also what you can do with your JD. And I think this is a really important first question because when students come to me, oftentimes I feel like they don't fully know what they want to do with their law degree, and that's okay. You don't have to have a completely mapped out plan. But I think it's a little different from being a doctor or being an engineer or a scientist. I think people have more of a concept of what really goes into those jobs. And I think it's hard, especially like I was as a first generation student. I didn't have any lawyers in my family. I didn't really know a lot about what the day to day life of a lawyer was like. And so there's this disconnect, I think, between those of us who want to be lawyers and then the realities of what it means to work with a lawyer or work as a lawyer. That's one of the reasons why I really strongly suggest students take some time to figure out what issues they want to be part of solving. And so one of the things that is really important is that you have a general idea about the passions that you have, right? So what is driving you to law school? And sometimes I will get answers that will say, well, I'm really interested in equality and equity and justice for all, or I'm really interested in just helping marginalized communities. And I don't want to take away from that. Absolutely, I think that's great. But I do want to press you to get more specific. Because when you have a specific goal in mind for why you want to go to law school and what you want to do with your law degree, not only will it help you in your applications, but it will actually help you in your law school career, because there's going to be times in law school when you're going to be like, I don't know why I'm here. I don't want to do this anymore, or this is hard, or this isn't what I thought it was. And so when you have a really concrete, no, but I'm doing this because I want to be able to help communities that have been impacted by environmental pollution, or I want to be able to help women get a better life and escape from domestic violence and trafficking situations. When you have something that is tangible, that is specific, that is really calling you, it gives you motivation in those moments that you might feel like you want to give up. It gives you a purpose. It gives you a higher calling. I think when we don't have that, when we're just kind of, I don't know, I think I'll be a really good lawyer, that's not enough to push you through those hard moments. And that's not enough for you to think strategically in law school about the types of internships and externships and clinics you want. Law school is not like undergrad. There are less rules, less boundaries. Everyone takes the same classes, 1L. And then after that, you're sort of on your own. Some schools will have an evidence requirement, or, they might strongly suggest you take a certain class. But other than that, you have to craft the courses and the clinics and the internships and the opportunities that are going to help you in your career. And if you get to 2L and you're still like, well, I have no idea what I want to do, it's going to be pretty hard for you to make strategic decisions about what classes are going to best set you up for your career and what experiences you want to pursue while you're in law school, so that when you graduate, you'll have actually some practical experience. in your law school resume. You'll say, well, while I was in law school, I did work on trials. I did work with clients in this matter. I did write policy briefs on this issue. And that will help you in the specific career that you're going to. When you're looking at professional school, when you're really looking at this level of education, it's a training ground for what you want to do after. So sometimes students also ask me, well, maybe law school won't like it if I seem too focused. Am I narrowing myself too much? I'm always like, focus is good. This is training. This is a professional school, right? They want you to be focused because then they know that you're going to actually do what you said you're going to do, versus wondering, well, I don't know, maybe if she doesn't have a good idea of what law she wants to do, or she doesn't have a good idea of what it means to be a lawyer, maybe she won't come back after first year. Or maybe she won't be able to get a job because she wouldn't have, or he would not have done the steps that he needed to prepare himself for that career search. And then they're thinking about what kind of alumni are you going to be. So they are very invested in you having a goal, setting that goal, and then accomplishing that goal. And so even with all of that said, I know that there are going to be people listening who are going to say, okay, but I don't really know how to start doing that. I don't really know, even if law school is for me, I'm still trying to figure out if this is a good path for me. I think there are certain things that you can kind of ask yourself to say, okay, yeah, I think that this makes sense. The first thing is I want to look at your actual academic strengths and desires, because we can always get better at things. But as a lawyer, you will be doing a lot of research and writing. Research and writing and reading. Those are the three main things. And so if you're telling me I don't really like to write, I hate research, reading is not, fun, law school is going to be pretty hard. I wouldn't say I want to be a doctor, but I hate science. People would really look at me very sideways. There are no people that go to med school and they're like, well, I just hate all science. It's like, why are you here? That's kind of the same thing with law school. There's a lot of reading. There's a lot of writing. There's a lot of research. You want to be able to invest yourself in a legal issue, a legal question. In order to find that angle, whether you're a litigation attorney or you are a corporate attorney and you're trying to advocate and find the loophole for your client, maybe, you have to read a lot of case law. You have to research what the precedents are. You have to have an understanding of what the kind of legal jurisprudence is on a topic, and then kind of come to your own conclusion and be able to back it up with other cases that you're reading and researching. So that's why in law school, your first year, you always take a legal research and writing course. And listen, I needed a refresher. So my third year, I took advanced legal research because I was like, I need a little bit more research than I think I got before I leave here. And it's just so important that you, even if you say I'm not the best researcher or the best writer or the best reader, that you have a passion or a desire to become better, that you are committed to the long haul, that you're committed to being a person who is going to get into the academics of it, because it's really academic. And I know that we all see, trial lawyers in the court, and you're like, ooh, that looks good. I'm a really good public speaker. I'm a really good debater. Yes. However, they also have done a lot of research and writing and reading. You have to write memos. You have to write motions in litigation. I know that everyone always sees trial and they're like, oh, that's what litigation is. I can tell you as a litigation attorney, I was a family law litigation attorney. Most things don't go to trial, and you actually are very happy about that. Most things do settle. But between then, there's a lot of motions. You're writing a lot. You are doing research on case law. You are drafting settlement agreements. You're drafting proposals. You're doing a lot of background work. You're doing a lot of research. You're doing a lot of discovery. If you're a trial litigation court attorney, discovery is like your best friend. And that's basically like you're reading through bank statements, you're reading through phone records, you're reading through memos and letters and notes. Like, you are in the weeds reading. Lots and lots of paperwork. So if you don't like paperwork, You don't want to be a litigation attorney. Doesn't matter how much you love public speaking. But there are also a lot of different areas. So some areas of law don't have as much paperwork as others, and some areas of law have more research than others. But you do want to kind of think about, okay, what are my skills and my strengths, and does law school make sense? So let me know if I'm making sense. I'll keep going. I know I have some questions. Okay, so someone says internships on Instagram, internships, volunteering, and work experience have been very helpful in helping me decide which field I want to work in. The other thing to keep in mind is that you might fall into a field that you weren't expecting to fall into. I wanted to get into family law, but I ended up getting jobs in immigration law. That's absolutely true. So internships are really helpful. If you can get those internships before you go to law school, absolutely. If you can get those internships while you're in law school and figuring it out that way, that's also okay. I always want you to go into law school with a plan. Go in with a vision and then be open to having your plan changed. So go in thinking, I think I want to make an impact in this area. I will take classes there, but I'll also take classes in other areas. You absolutely will most likely come out of law school maybe with a different view of either what you wanted to do, even if it's within the same area. I knew that I wanted to do family law. I went in thinking I wanted to be a child advocate. And after taking a lot of courses and also getting to do some really good policy work, which I didn't think that I wanted to do at all. I thought I only wanted to work with clients. But I got to work at the Attorney General's office in Massachusetts and the Child and Youth Protection Unit. And I also got to do domestic litigation with the clinic at Harvard. And so those two experiences really shaped how I felt about policy work, but also how I felt about the broader family law landscape when we're talking about divorce and custody and mediation. So those are really good opportunities as well. But even if it's not a legal internship, even if you're like, well, I think that I want to do criminal law, but I have no experience in criminal law and I don't know if criminal law is for me, maybe you can volunteer at like a prison project, or maybe you can do something that gets you tangentially adjacent to the world, even if it's not a legal internship, it's not a defender's office or a prosecutor's office. What can you do, even if it's volunteer, that helps solidify your passion for this area or this topic? Now, the other thing, if you're trying to figure out, is law school for me or not for me, then you also want to be thinking about, what kind of hours do I want to work? What's the work-life balance that I want as an attorney? If you're the type of person who says, I only want to work 9 to 5, which was me, it's going to be a little bit of a rude awakening when you get to law school and you look at the legal career. And it was. I mean, I was 21 when I went into law school, so I didn't have a huge concept. I knew I didn't want to do big law, also because I didn't want to work so many hours in my day. That's not the work-life balance that I wanted for myself. But there are tons of government attorney jobs that do have more of a 9 to 5 set schedule. And so you want to be thinking along those terms. One of the things that I really always encourage students to do is to see who is doing what they want to do. Look at their LinkedIn and then work backwards and say, oh, what did this person do? Okay, if you say, I think I want to represent movie stars, figure out who that person is or persons are, and then maybe see their LinkedIn and see, where did they start? What were some of their first jobs? You're not going to graduate from law school and, start representing Will Smith or something like that, but you might want to see what the path is. So let me just take a moment here and just check in on you guys again. Make sure that you guys are with me and you're doing good. And if you guys have questions, definitely put them below. That would be really fantastic. I want to make sure that I'm able to get to all of your questions today. Okay, so far you guys seem to be doing okay. Just gonna check one more thing and let me know, like, where are you struggling with? If you're someone that's thinking about going to law school but you're not really sure, what is kind of keeping you? What are the pros and cons that you're making? I love making pro-con lists. I think that pro-con lists really illuminate, if we're being honest with ourselves in the pro-con list. Sometimes we're not super honest with ourselves, but if we're being honest with ourselves on the pro-con list, they really illuminate some things, or really think about, what do you want in your workplace? What kind of environment do you want? Do you want to have a team kind of feeling where you're collaborating on a project? Do you want to have more of a traditional, I have a boss, the boss gives me work, I do the work kind of situation? Do you want to feel like you're able to move up in your career? Do you want to feel like you are kind of in a smaller environment where everyone is sort of on the same page and the same hierarchy, but maybe there's not as much room for upward growth? I think those are some of the things that you also need to consider. I see someone says they're deciding between part-time law and full-time law. I have an entire video on the differences between part-time and full-time, and I definitely recommend watching that. One of the biggest things is that there are different experiences in law school, and some of those extracurricular or co-curricular activities like joining journals, moot court, some of those activities, some of the clinics are not as available to some part-time students at some schools. Some schools do a really good job of integrating their part-time students. Some schools, it's a little bit more siloed. So you really want to be looking at that, and you want to be looking at what is going to actually be like a good balance for you, because part-time law school is still a lot of work, even though it's part-time, and it's still a lot of, I wouldn't necessarily say, working full-time and going to law school part-time and raising kids is like a healthy balance for you to get the most out of your law school experience. You can find all those videos on my YouTube channel. If you just go to S. Montgomery Admissions Consulting, that part-time video might not yet be up, but if you scroll on the Facebook page, we did a video on that. And if you tag me, I will make sure that I help you find that if you're in the Facebook group. All of the videos, all of the recorded lives are all stored in the Barrier Breakers Law School Edition Facebook group. So if you're ever wondering where you can find old videos, or wondering, just you needed a little bit more information on the area, you can always scroll down in the Facebook group. All of the recorded videos are here. And then they all usually make their way to my YouTube channel. So there's lots of places for you to find the videos. Now, I did want to talk about the different things that you can do with a JD, because sometimes people come to me and their questions are really surrounding, I'm pretty sure I want a JD, but I'm not sure I want to practice law. How can I go about this? Is it worth still getting the JD? Should I know if I want to practice law before I go into law school? So again, I would say figure out what is the passion that is driving you to law school. I never think it's worth it just to get a JD, just to get a JD. Even though a JD does open doors, you do want to have some intentionality behind it, because it's a big investment. Even if you have a full ride, it's an investment of time, right? It's 3 years of your life. And so you don't want to just do that because you're not really sure and it might be helpful someday, maybe. You kind of want to plan. Now, I had some fantastic section mates at law school who knew that they didn't want to practice law. They knew that. But they had other goals, and usually they were kind of in the realm of business or consulting or compliance work, or maybe finance, CPA, those sort of things. There are a lot of jobs that are what's called JD preferred. What that means is that they prefer candidates have a JD. It's not required because you don't actually need to practice law in that role, but they want someone with the legal background, with the legal training, who understands how to read and decipher code and cases, and who understands how to write policy and how to formulate different terms. They want someone with those skills, even though it's not something that you have to be a barred attorney for necessarily. And so there are a lot of JD preferred jobs that I think students really benefit from getting a JD if they know that's what they want. I had one friend, I love her. She worked for BCG, Boston Consulting Group, before law school. Went to law school and was pretty sure she was going to work for BCG afterwards, which she did. But it allowed her to move up in her career at BCG so much faster, and allowed her to do a different realm of work because she had that JD background. So there are a lot of consulting firms that will really value the background, the experiences, the skills that you gain from law school. And there are also, like I said, a lot of finance jobs and compliance jobs, especially if you're looking at universities, like Title IX compliance workers. There's a lot in that if you're looking at insurance, so many things in there that are JD preferred because of the need to really understand, parse out, translate, amend, work around different codes and legal sections. So if you're not sure that you want to practice law, that's okay. I just want to make sure that you know, what do you think you're going to do with your JD? Again, these aren't binding questions. I think also sometimes students feel like if they commit right now, let's say they say they're interested in intellectual property, they're interested in criminal justice, and they're interested in food law. I always throw food law out there because I love food law, and so many people don't understand or don't realize that it's a whole area of law, but it's fantastic. I did a full year clinic. I did both semesters in the food law and policy clinic at Harvard, and it was fantastic. Definitely shout out to all of the clinic instructors and professors there because we did some phenomenal work around food deserts, food waste, farm bill, school food, so much urban gardening and urban planning. There's so much in there. It's such a neat area of law. And that's the other thing. There are so many really cool areas of law. So I also suggest, if you're like, I don't really know what to do, Google, like, what different kinds of laws are there? There are well over 30 different areas of law that you can practice, and some might speak more to you than others. So really look into that. I mean, and there are some really niche topics, and that will also help inform what schools you apply to, because there are not a lot of schools that have full food law and policy clinic, but there are some students that came specifically for that. Drake University in Iowa, shout out to Drake Law, is actually one of the other really large, prominent food law clinics in the country. And we actually got to travel to Iowa. It was my first time in Iowa, and honestly, it was like one of the best things. You know, when you go on a field trip in school, you don't really get field trips in college that much, and you certainly don't really get field trips in law school as much, but this was great. We went to Iowa, went to a farm, went to some factories. It was really cool, but really got immersed in farmers and farmers markets, and just what the crop culture was there, how the farm bill was affecting Iowa. You know, a lot of our staple crops do come from the Midwest, and so it was really important to be on the ground there. So I really loved it. But if you're passionate about food law, and there were some students who were like, my family were farmers. I come from a farming background. Farming is super important to me. I don't want to be a farmer. However, I want to advocate for the rights of farmers. Then you need to go to a school that's going to support you doing that, because not every school is going to really have a lot for you. But yeah, you can Google how many different kinds of law are there to practice, and you can start seeing what piques your interest. And even if you're not really sure exactly what you want to do, if you want to do direct service work, if you want to do policy work, you can start to get an idea for the areas that you want to affect change in. And that's what I want you to think about. So instead of just being like, I want to help marginalized communities, I want you to say, I want to help marginalized communities in the area of housing. I want to help marginalized communities as it relates to the criminal justice system. I want to help marginalized communities as it relates to food deserts or basic needs. You know, I want to help them as it relates to healthcare policy. But just saying, you know, I want to help those that don't have a voice, or I want to help underrepresented communities without telling me how, doesn't actually tell me what area of law you want to affect change in. So I always ask people, it's a twofold question. What area do I want to affect change in, and who do I want to help? You can answer either one first. You can figure out who you want to help and then how. You can figure out what area you want to affect change in and then who. But that will really help drive your conversation. I have another question from Instagram. I want to study immigration law, though my past 6 years have focused on cybersecurity law and international law and a research fellowship and master's. Will it look bad that I'm switching? Absolutely not. It won't look bad that you're switching. I just want to know why, right? Walk me through how maybe the skills that you've learned in cybersecurity and international law are going to translate to your passion for immigration law. You can always use things as a strength. Everything that you've gone through, whether that is an internship, a volunteer position, whether that's just your personal life circumstances, they have all prepared you for this moment to be an attorney. They have all prepared you for your passion. And I also tell people your passion does not just come overnight. You didn't just wake up yesterday and decide that you wanted to do immigration law. There is something in your past that has really triggered that, but then also your experiences, even if they don't look like they connect, have shaped and informed how you view that passion and where you're trying to go. So never negate any experiences that you don't think are necessarily on brand or direct correlation to where you want to go, because they have all prepared you for this moment, and they have all prepared you for the type of attorney that you're going to be. It's the background that you're going to bring to the cases and the research that you're going to do. So always be weaving in your stories, even stories that don't seem like the obvious stories to connect. And that's something that when I work with my students, whether one-on-one or when I work with them in the boot camp, I make them make a universe of their stories, and I help them connect them in a way that sometimes is not always obvious. And that's really the benefit of having someone come in and really help you connect your stories, because you might only see them one way, and I might see all of the skill set transfer, and I might see all of the connections between passion or the thematic connections between your stories that you didn't even think were there. And that's what makes for a really rich personal statement, a really rich application, is when you can actually show that everything that you've been doing, even though you didn't know it, because we don't know it, right? Hindsight's 20/20. But everything that you've done has really been on this path that you're on now, because you did not get here accidentally. So it must have been the train that you're on. Does that make sense to you guys? Let me know if that makes sense. And we are, we're at 12:34. I always say I'm not going to keep you long in these segments. I want to be here to answer your questions. I want to be here to give you some tips. But then, I just want to be a resource for you. So I want to make sure if you have questions that you're able to ask the questions, that you're able to get them in. Wonderful. So happy that that makes sense. Like I said, if you're not in the Barrier Breakers Facebook group, definitely make sure that you are in the group. Oh my gosh. Let's see. Morgan says, I'm struggling with finding the best part-time law school in New York City for becoming a tax attorney. I currently work as a CPA and I'm looking to work in corporate law. Definitely, like I said, go watch that part-time video and then think about, okay, you want to be a tax attorney. Like I said, I always recommend working backwards. Find some tax attorneys on LinkedIn, work backwards, see where they went to school, see what kind of internships they had, see what kind of externships or clinics that they did, and then look at the schools that you are interested in and see what kinds of opportunities they offer and if those opportunities are similar. If they interned at a certain place that a part-time school or a full-time program has a partnership with, then you know that you're on the right path. So sometimes the answers that we want are actually, they're there. People have told us the answers. Now, there's not one path to anything. There's multiple paths to the different ways that you can serve and be as an attorney. But if you look at some people who have already made it, and get like a couple, get like 3 or 4 or 5 so you can get a myriad of views, then you can start to see and chart out your path, and it can stop feeling like there's this black hole of the future and you don't know how to get to the other side. You know that you're here and you know where you want to go, but you just see like confusion in the middle. So sometimes looking at other people and how they've done it can really help you parse out that confusion. And that's the other thing. That's why if you're in my Facebook group, I help connect students together, because I think seeing someone who's already gone through it and seeing someone who is on the other side can really help make you feel like your dream is attainable and achievable. We have another question that says, what were some of the biggest challenges for me on my journey that we can learn from? Oh my goodness, that's a big question. I can't go through all of them here, but I sprinkle them throughout my videos for sure. I think one of the biggest things that I would say for me on my journey was, making sure that I found the right fit. I did. I was really lucky. I loved Harvard. I loved the Black Law Students Association, but I remember when I was trying to apply to law school, I was really concerned about finding fit. And so one of the things that I did is I made sure that I interacted with every single Black Law Student Association that I was applying to, that I got accepted to. And I had phone interviews with people at every single school so that I could really get a flavor for the school and for the community. And I know that I shared this last week when we were talking about which schools to do and how to choose, but I almost didn't apply to Harvard because I wasn't really focused on the outcomes as much as I should have been. I was 20 when I applied to Harvard. And I was mostly focused on I didn't want to go to school in a big city. I I don't know. I had some criteria that were okay. I'm not knocking it, but I wasn't thinking about what are the schools that are going to open the doors and what is the scholarship consideration that I need to have and can I understand my loans? I had no concept of loans and just no concept of I signed for them, but I had no idea what I was signing. And so I think having a little bit more financial guidance would have been really helpful. And I'm happy though that I had people who corrected my school list and made me apply to the top 10 because I wasn't going to, and that would have been a terrible, terrible mistake. I absolutely loved my time at Harvard. It was a place of growth for me, for sure. I did not leave the same way that I came in, and I think that, we can be really stuck in the transactional nature of law school. I'm going to go to law school and then I'm going to get a JD. But sometimes we're not thinking about the growth, and you're a person, right? You're a person who is going to change and morph and have their views challenged and opened and perspectives over the next 3 years. I wish I had joined the law school parity my first year. The law school parity is like the law school play. Dance is really important to me, and I didn't do it my first year. I don't know. I think I was still in a very transactional mindset about law school, and it may seem like, well, you're here to study, you're here to get your JD. But let me tell you, when I joined Parity my second year, I ended up being the co-director, co-dance choreographer of the Parity my third year, which was an amazing opportunity. But getting to showcase the arts and learn from my peers, not only did I make connections with people, like you have to understand that law school is also about making connections, right? So I have friends right now who are mayors. I have friends right now who are running for Senate. I have friends right now who will probably run for president. And that's very cool. I also, if I really wanted to affect some change, we could get a group of us together and we could really do that because we're all in kind of these really good positions of influence and spheres where we're at. And I think if I had just studied and not really focused on the relational aspects, like I went to things like, one-all dances, and I went to plays, and I did a lot of social things. And it was really important. And the bonds that we made, the bonds that I made with my section mates, the bonds that I made with my other classmates, the conversations that we had over lunch, the different sharing of ideas, I learned so much from a personal standpoint. One of my really good friends is Orthodox Jewish. And to be honest, I didn't know any Orthodox Jews before I went to Harvard. There's actually quite a few. And I have a few really, really good friends. And we've learned about our cultures. We've shared so much. And I think especially in this day and time when there's so much going on with racial justice and social justice, the ability to listen, the ability to intimately get to know someone else's culture and beliefs, to have them understand you, to see each other as people, is so valuable, even if you're going there for law school, right? Because now when I'm thinking about laws, I had a friend who, had to leave law school for a couple years to go serve in the military, right? Because he was from a different country. I have friends who are judges in Japan before they came to law school, which is so cool. It's like very cool. I had friends who were in the FBI, which was awesome. And I'm like, wow, tell me about that. Or people who are teachers who are coming to law school. People come to law school from such varied backgrounds. And you are really missing an opportunity if you don't truly get to know them, because you will grow and you will be a better attorney and just a better person for it. So that's that. I think that's the biggest advice that I would give to you, right? Is have an open mind, have a plan, go in with an idea of what area you want to be most influential in, what area of law do you want to affect change and why, what your passions are. And then Be open to having that shifted and changed. Be open to meeting new people. Be open to the experiences. Be open to your own growth. Go into law school saying, I am not going to come out the same person that I am. And I'm going to come out a better person. It's going to be fantastic. I'm investing in myself and I'm investing in my future. And I think you will have a very fulfilling career. So it is almost at the 45 mark. I am going to pray us out. It's Good Friday, of course. So thank you for being here. Every Friday, we will be here at noon Eastern Time. So if you missed it this time, you will get it next time. You also can submit questions to me ahead of time. You can email them to me, or there's a form that you can submit them. And like I said, if you're not in the Facebook group, definitely join. Subscribe to my YouTube channel where all of these videos eventually making themselves way. And if you are interested in working with me and you want to know more about how I work with my students, shoot me an email, go on my website. There's lots of information and interest forms that you can fill out. Dear Heavenly Father, I just want to thank you. On this Good Friday, on the day that we remember your son's sacrifice, that he died for our sins so that we could be free. I also want to thank you for the opportunity for us to live your vision and your purpose for our lives. Jesus died so that we could be free and have life abundantly, but also so that we could be free from the shackles of the enemy's grasp, that we could be free from doubt and insecurity, that we could be free from indecision, that we could be free from not living up to our best potential. So dear Heavenly Father, I ask that you would be with all of those who are listening, that you would help them know that in you they have freedom to dream big, that in you they have freedom to reach high, that they do not need to settle for anything or for anyone, that you have called them for a greater purpose, and that you have called them to impact their communities. So I thank you for all those who are listening. I thank you for their desire to learn more, their desire to pursue this JD path. I ask a blessing on all of those who are not sure. They're not sure whether you're calling them to law school or not. They're not sure where their interests or their skills lay. They're not sure what the best way is for them to make an impact and leave a legacy in the world. So I just ask that you would give them wisdom, that you would give them the ability to discern their call, that you would send signs that are clear, crystal clear, that they would have no more confusion, that maybe a JD is for them, but maybe it's not. Or that they're being called to something else. We are all called for a purpose. No one calling is better or holier or more worthy or more prestigious than the other. Some of us are called to be attorneys. Some of us are called to be carpenters. You take those who society deems at the bottom and you raise them up, like you did with Mary and Joseph. And that if you could do that with them, you could do that with us. So I ask that no matter where someone is feeling called, that you will remind them that they are worthy, that you can use their gifts, no matter how big or how small they think they are, to impact millions. So I ask that you would give them the confidence to boldly follow your path, that you would give them the confidence to boldly seek out discernment about whether they should go to law school, and that if they are to go to law school, that you would give them the guidance that you need, that you would put around them a support group, that you would put around them clear steps on their path that they can follow, that you would not let them misstep or wander or tarry, that you would allow them to go efficiently and go just expeditiously in the path that you have called them to. I ask that you would bless them and bless their path, that you would make their career fruitful, that you would make it fulfilling, and that you would help grow them into the person that you're calling them to be. I ask all of this in your Son Jesus' precious name. Amen. So guys, as always, I love spending my Friday afternoons with you. I hope that whether you're religious or not, you're enjoying this Friday, this weekend. If you are Christian, I wish you the happiest Easter. That this weekend, this holy weekend, would be filled with love and joy and family. If you need anything, you know where to find me, and I will see you guys next week. Take care.